Perfect. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pray us in as we open. I would also love, Sarah, you in particular, since you just completed your first of these 20 messages a day for 6 full days. When we first started this, we had everybody give like just share like, okay, and what did this do for your confidence? What did this do for your business? What did this do for your prospects and conversations and just overall, like we were just all kind of amazed at what this, like all of the conversations that opened up, all of the engagement I started getting on my posts as a result of being in Messenger more. So we have kind of done that the last couple of calls. So Sarah, if you could kind of just put in the chat some of the fruit that's come from this week. Awesome. No rush. It looks like you're doing something, packing lunches. So just do that whenever throughout the call you have a minute to sit and type. Okay, let us pray. Dear Lord, I am very thankful as always for the opportunity to be together tonight. I'm so thankful for Justin and Megan's hearts and wisdom and willingness to be here working with the willing like I am. And so thankful for the ways you've grown me and grown them and brought us to the point where we're able to coach from our experience and just impart some of what you've given us in this growth journey. I'm so thankful for exactly who is here this evening and who did the work this week to earn this time. It's a really precious, intimate time with a small group. And so I believe it is exactly as you would have it be. And I just pray, Lord, for openness and softness and vulnerability, that everybody would come ready and willing to share. And just that would allow the time here to be fruitful and productive, and that you would speak through me, speak through the Goffs, and speak through each leader here. We are here to learn from one another, not to learn from the diamonds. So I just pray that you would give everybody that nudge to go ahead and share what it is they're struggling with, or what it is they need coaching on, or the word of wisdom maybe that they have for somebody else on the call, that we would all be able to learn together. Thank you so much. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So since we didn't have a specific person volunteer or say like, I need the one-on-one intensive coaching, we're going to experiment a little bit tonight with just popcorn style. And I'm going to chat with you all about some things that I have been learning, and I'm just going to ask questions as I go. And so I would love for you guys to respond to the questions. And here and there, I'll have you unmute if there's something I want to dig with you on a little bit, but don't fear that you'll be like the one singled out for the whole call or anything like that. So hopefully that, and we'll just see how that goes. Anyway, we're so glad you're here. So as I was like coming up with naming this call, I named it Helping Yourself Do What You Want to Do But Aren't Doing. And I kind of decided that we're going to touch on this in 2 parts. Okay, there is the deeper story. There is, okay, I really want to grow in my business, and I know that I need to do X behavior to grow in my business and reach my goal. But for whatever mysterious, unnamed reason, I am avoiding doing that behavior. I don't know why. I need help figuring that out. I'm avoiding it like the plague. Okay, so I tend to think that there are some deeper reasons for that. And then on the much lighter side, I believe that sometimes the reason we aren't doing the thing we want to do is simply because we have not mastered our time, and we have not designed habits that set us up for more success. And the good news about that is it doesn't require you to go to therapy. It's actually just like really fun and freeing to crack that nut. And I've been doing a lot of work on that with my team. We're reading this book called Tiny Habits, and I love it. And it's really helping us crack that nut. And it's just been like super fun and freeing. So we're gonna talk about this from each of those vantage points. So everybody who is able to turn your camera on, I would love for you to turn your camera on because it helps me a lot to be able to see nodding heads, shaking heads, thumbs ups, whatever, to help me know if you're tracking and if you are resonating with what we're talking about, with what we're asking. Okay, so if you are like naked, leave your camera off. But if you are otherwise decent, I would love for you to turn it on. Okay, so first question for the group. I would love to know if you resonate with any of these. If one of them stands out more than another, speak up on that. If multiple ones resonate, maybe, speak up on that too. Reasons you might be avoiding your plexus work. One big deeper one that I thought of right off the bat has to do with relational wounds, especially in your past. So I'll use a personal example from me. Again, we are in a private, safe space. And I've shared this on the call before. I realized I had given myself this really detailed list of IPAs that I decided I was going to wake up and conquer over the summer before my kids woke up, since they weren't going to be at school and I wasn't going to have any other time. I was going to wake up and do these super high impact IPAs before they got up. And instead, I dreaded it. And I did not want to wake up before my kids. And I would snooze until the last possible second when they would wake up. And then, of course, did not have the time carved out for any of that plexus work. And I was like, what? Why am I avoiding this? This is so strange. I did some digging and I discovered I was fearful of signing new runners. Because of past relational wounds, I felt personally wounded by business builders who had, quote, left me. Now, all of this, I first of all want y'all to hear this through the filter of my story, that there have been other betrayals in my family and in my childhood and all kinds of relational wounds that were coloring and filtering how I'm experiencing this. Are y'all tracking with me? But when I would think about people that I had poured a lot of time into developing and working with, and I would think about how they haven't talked to me in a year, they haven't worked their business in 3 years, or whatever the case may be, there was a ton of woundedness there and a ton of hurt. And that hurt was causing me to fear putting myself out there again with a new runner, finding a new runner and pouring into a new runner and having hope for a new runner and all of that, right? Okay, so there's a personal example. Do you resonate with that at all? And it doesn't have to be my exact scenario, but are there relational wounds, hurts of any kind in your relationships that have caused you to avoid or shy away from your plexus work? There's a million things it could be. I would love for you to share in the chat. Another biggie, I think, in the last couple of years has been just that people have maybe their friendships have suffered through all the disagreements that have come with the political climate or with COVID. And so maybe you've lost some friendships and maybe that has dampened your confidence. Goodness, there's just so many things it could be. So if you have ever found yourself avoiding your plexus work, not doing the behaviors you set out to do that you want to do, but you're not doing, and you resonate with, oh, it might be linked to a relational hurt or wound. Be very curious to hear from you. Okay, another example. Deeper issues. Again, we're talking about deeper issues that might be your obstacle. A big one I've heard from my team on is the opinions of others. She's not on the call tonight, but Kara Elliott shared with us that the way her reputation in her community and in her family has been a stumbling block, and that she's had people who are hyper offended by talk of weight loss. And so she has avoided any sort of marketing or talking about weight loss because of the fear of the opinions of others, that has been a complete stronghold for her for multiple years. And I'm sharing her example because she's openly shared just this month, in fact, that she has been able to shed that a little bit this month and find some freedom and go ahead and start talking about weight loss and just release the fact that she's going to be misunderstood, she's going to be judged by certain people, and that is not her business. So that's just one example, but do you resonate with how maybe the opinions of others, or just your fear of the opinions of others, is causing you not to do the behaviors, not to do the thing, not to do the IPAs? Another biggie that comes up a lot between me and Megan, comes up a lot on Jessica's team as a whole, is money mindset. Are you stuck in a poor man way of thinking? If you're not familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks a lot about just the thought patterns that characterize a wealthy person and a poor person. And there's just certain ruts that we tend to, be in if we are not raised to think like an entrepreneur, if we're not raised to think like someone who goes out and creates wealth. We probably fall into some of just the cultural norms in that sense. So if you've ever felt like earning money is icky, or if you've ever felt like it's selfish to want to accumulate wealth, or if you've ever felt like there's something maybe morally not okay about that. Megan, can you think of any other just like money mindset hangups off the top of your head that people might resonate with?
Yeah, I think it just has to, what we can put a lid on our own success by the limiting beliefs that we have around money. And if you don't already have a plan with what you would do with like 10 times the amount of money that you're currently making, you're probably not going to get there because you haven't even conceived of it in your mind. It's a thought before it's ever reality.
Yes.
Money mindset. So.
Oh, there's so many.
There are.
It's taught incorrectly from the pulpit. That's one of the biggest issues, I think.
Yeah.
Other than just read your Bible when it comes to money. Don't listen to preachers. But I'm a little radical, but anyway,
biblical.
That's yeah, right.
Because some of those scriptures people take out of context, or they twist them.
I think a big thing with money is identity. A lot of people feel unworthy to receive more or to be successful because they don't think they deserve it. And that's an identity issue, not a money issue. If you solve the identity issue and you realize you're a child of the King, money is just a tool. And, as a child of the one who owns a cattle on 1,000 hills, then it's a non-issue. So it's really an identity issue, I think.
Yeah.
Money issue is. I mean, anything deals with worthiness or not worthy or shame or something like that's really tied back to identity.
Another common money mindset hangup is if you sit in judgment of people who have success and wealth, then you will just naturally not want to be like that. So if you think, oh, how selfish of them, or how tacky of them, or they probably didn't work to earn it, they probably had it handed to them, or whatever judgment or negative thought you might have towards them like that, then you'll actually kind of repel ever becoming like that. Anyway, lots of money mindset hangups. She's not on the call tonight, but I'll share about Hannah Godfrey. Like, she was so opposed to earning money that she got mad when, after referring people to Plexus because it was helping her and her daughter so much in their health, and then Plexus started paying her, she got like mad because in her mind that was somehow a less honest way of sharing something good. So I thought that was hilarious. So she's actually done so much transformative work in her Plexus journey, just reshaping her mindsets around money. But you can bet that she would have never gotten to Ruby, where she's at right now, if the idea of earning, one commission from one order was just absolutely abhorrent to her. Okay, another deeper issue, maybe you resonate with this one: overwhelm. I think people really struggle when it comes to, okay, I need to zero in on a behavior and I need to complete it in order to make progress toward my goal. But they keep zooming out to the whole forest, right? That is what we do when we are opting into overwhelm, is we go, okay, I know where I want to go. I know the next step to get there, but I'm just going to keep zooming out to the whole journey and then just getting lost in the overwhelm. So I think that is a deeper issue. Probably many of us can relate with. And on that topic of overwhelm, I think a lot of people can probably relate with, like, I've tried pushing for a big goal, like setting a specific goal and pushing for it, working really hard, and I ended in burnout. And so then they believe, well, okay, so working hard and pushing toward a goal always ends in burnout. Therefore, I can't crack that nut. I can't have goals. I can't push toward a big stretch goal because I'm always going to end in burnout, right? And so they kind of stay stuck in that place instead of reevaluating and reconsidering that there are other ways to still work hard from rest joyfully. And then Justin, I was really glad you brought up identity. I hadn't written that one down. You talked about it from a money standpoint, but I think that in general, whatever identity we believe about ourselves or agree with, our actions are we're going to act in accordance. Humans have a deeply rooted desire to act in accordance with whatever identity we have adopted. Go ahead.
Or, I mean, identity could be something, if you go back to even patterns or wounds, like identity is something we can develop over something someone has said to us a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these things can go back to emotional wounds, like in trauma that really has to be dealt with before we can move forward. You know, I mean, so that's the cool thing about this plexus thing is it really exposes a lot. At least that's been my experience. I don't know if anybody else has really experienced that as you're dealing with people and you're dealing with rejection, you're dealing with, you know, all of these things. And none of us came with a skill set of network marketing that I know of here. So a lot of this has been on the job training, you know, and none of us know what we're doing. And that's the cool thing about Plexus is like even Alec and Charles don't even know what they do now, but like we've all grown up together throughout the year. So it's been a really neat experience, but really it brings out, it brings out stuff in us and that has to be dealt with. So identity can be something that someone has even spoke over us a long time ago. Whether it's true or not, it could just be a perceived truth, what we thought they thought of us. And so it takes some, I think, some reflection and really looking inside and just like, who are we and why am I doing this thing and why am I not doing this thing? And we might be surprised on what surfaces.
Totally. I mean, I was really surprised when I realized, oh, I'm avoiding finding new business builders. And this is why. It's because of that wound. I'm hurting about that. You talked about identity can come not just from like recent things in our business, but from wounds in the past. And I would add to that it's actually, that's the case, you know, 99% of the time, because we have a real tactical enemy. He is Satan. And he is so much more effective when he targets you at a tender, young age. And he targets your identity, and he targets how you view God and how you view life and how you view yourself. And so if he can get in there young, when, you know, someone at school says you're not very pretty, or when mom or dad says, oh, stop being so dramatic when your feelings are hurt. If he can get in there and speak an identity over you at that age and get you to come into agreement with it, it is so much easier. And so then for the rest of your life, you're living in the shadow of that agreement and that lie, but you adopted it so young. So yeah. I want to read a little bit of what's been said, just what people resonate with so far. So Sarah said she resonates with the opinions of others. She said, since I'm selling Plexus, I feel like they're going to think I'm just out to get money and I don't care about people. Also, as I'm posting throughout the week, I want to post about the success of others using Plexus, but I fear people with Plexus success stories will feel used. So I just end up posting about my weight, my skin, and my son. Good reflections. I'm really glad that you're kind of resonating with that and just saying it out loud. Justin said, when I was Sapphire, I was stuck and not moving toward Diamond. My coach helped me uncover that I was afraid of pushing for Diamond because if I failed, I feared I would be rejected. He helped me see that this has been a pattern for me that came from my childhood and my unhealthy relationship with my dad. Wow. Mind blowing. Roberta said she has a list of what Plexus is paying for. Good. So is that, Roberta? Let's see. There you are. Is that a way that you're kind of helping yourself against the money mindset hangups? Can you share a little more about why you have that list?
I don't know what I'm not sure exactly where I was going with that, but when y'all were talking about the money thing, and so I don't know if it was Justin or somebody said something about somebody was afraid to make money and wasn't thinking the big picture about, if you're not thinking about what the money will do for you going forward and stuff. And so anyways, yes, I have my little check boxes. Okay, we got through that one. Now this up until I want to buy more land because I have only 2.5 acres and have my horses here on 2.5. So I want a bigger house, not a huge house, just more than 1,000 square feet. I don't mind having 1,000 square foot house. I could have a 2,000 square foot storage shed somewhere.
There you go.
Yeah. So I just want more storage and then have a bigger barn and more area for the horses, So yeah, I can definitely see my bigger picture of where I want to go with this. But but this is all very interesting. If I can just speak for a minute, my husband just went and took a shower. So the reason I didn't want to get coached tonight is because it's hard for me to be coached when my husband and I are in the same little room together, right? So but it's interesting to hear people's backstories about their childhood and how that affects even what we're doing right now. I mean, I'm 57 years old. I had a violent alcoholic as a father growing up. So we went through all the beatings and stuff. And also I was the fat kid in school. So we went through all the, the horrible name calling and abuse and, and I can't even imagine, this was before internet, right? I can't even imagine what the kids are going through now that have the internet to really blow it up, right? This was just my home, my school that I went through. I couldn't even imagine it being worldwide and people being able to really bully out on the internet. But also I have an eating disorder that I am dealing with for 37 years. And that comes from the childhood and everything. So it's really interesting. And that's why I love Plexus so much. When y'all talk about what Plexus will do for you, this has changed my life. I have really been able to get a handle on that. And different ways that I was not able to before this came to my life. But I mean, like I said, I've just started this in mid-March. So it's just all becoming so much so fast that I can't wait to see what next year brings.
It's amazing the domino, that you make one little change that becomes this constellation of other changes and behaviors, and the awareness that it just kind of pulls awareness of how all of those things are affecting you today. Thank you for sharing. I'm so
thank you. And I don't announce it very often, so y'all are lucky.
Yeah. Well, we consider it sacred part of your story. And I'm convinced, I'm, certain that God is going to use it for good as he kind of redeems it daily. So thank you. Let me read a little bit more. I see Rachel says, not sure if this is related to any of the topics, so I'm just putting it out there in the chat. I've been fearful of signing runners because I feel unsure how to help them. I also don't want to get overwhelmed and burnt out working Plexus, like I did when I was trying to go gold and right after trying to maintain that, I guess. And I don't want to not get to do other things like have time with my husband and baby or clean the house that are so important to me. I know it's possible to do without overwhelm and burnout. I'm trying to figure out how. Thank you for sharing. And I think what you said, I think a lot of people can relate with that. I think what's interesting though is that we operate out of those fears a lot of the time and don't realize that those fears are motivating us or demotivating us rather. So we just they're kind of invisibly guiding the ship, causing us to do or not do. Thought I saw a couple more. Seeing some comments on inconsistency, how that can hold people back because it naturally just makes everything more overwhelming. And yes, good point, Melody. Inconsistency, the pile then grows bigger and bigger that you feel like you're digging yourself out from under, but also people feel ashamed that they were inconsistent or ashamed that they took a break or took a season or whatever. So that shame can be really powerful. It is a very powerful motivator of behavior that can cause us to, it's sad, really, like people that you love on your team and you're like, don't even want to talk to them because you're so ashamed that you haven't been working or whatever. It's real. So much of my childhood has affected how I view myself. I'm working to change that by His grace. And I'm so glad I'm working through it because I want to help others do the same. Amen. Free people set others free. Healed people help others heal. And that is the work that we are doing. And it's not work everyone's brave enough to do, but we are doing it. All right. Good stuff. Okay, good stuff. So what I would encourage you to do, first of all, did anyone else besides Roberta have anything from the deeper issues that you would just like one of us to just be curious with you about? I don't want to rush through. Okay. If something does come up, you feel free to put it in the chat. But in general, I would say the types of reflective questions that help me when I pinpoint a deeper issue or a wound that I realize is hanging me up. I find it helpful to go to sidelines who are like-minded, who want what I want, and they want it at the pace I want it, and they want to put in the effort I want to put in. Like, we're like-minded when it comes to work ethic, if that makes sense. I feel like that's important. You don't want to go to someone who says they want it, but in their actions and in their thought patterns and in their speech, they actually just maybe vent or complain or bring you down. Don't go to someone like that, but go to a like-minded sideline and try to be curious with one another. And I feel like one of the helpful questions for me is for someone to say, how do you want to feel about X? So plug in your issue. For me, it was recruiting new runners. How do you want to feel about recruiting new runners? And get specific and journal. This is worth it, guys. This is worth the time. So write it down. Like, how do I want to feel about this? What are other things in my life that cause me to feel that, hopefulness or that joy or that excitement? And just really, really pinpoint that so you can start to channel it. And then what Emily Gibson recommends is to let yourself feel the thing, feel the wound, let yourself process it. So I had to just have a few days of going, I am hurting about these relationships and what they've been through and where they are. I'm really hurting about that. And that is the reason I am gun shy about finding new runners. And I just had to talk that through with some people and talk it through with God and journal and all of that. So that's my encouragement. Before I move on to maybe some of the lighthearted, more practical stuff, any other thoughts from you, Goffs, that you want to?
Yeah, I think it's important to process emotions. I think I think I'm the only guy on here, but especially for men, I see a guy in the background. Hey, I'm talking to you. We got one. We got one. So I think it's important to, I mean, for men and women both, to process emotions. I mean, God gave us emotions, right? It's not a bad thing. And sometimes we do feel certain ways. I think we should process that feeling or those emotions, especially for men, because men aren't supposed to feel things. Like, it's unmanly to feel so you stuff, so you stuff emotions, and then over time, stuffed emotions become bitterness, they become unforgiveness, and then they turn, depending on which studies you read, they turn into sickness, disease, cancer, whatever. It can really manifest itself in some strange ways in your body. So I think processing those things are very important. I think not staying stuck, but processing them, talking them through, and then moving on, but at least feeling them. And then, like you're saying, processing them is very important, rather than just stuffing them, because they really don't go away. They just fester, right? And then, so it's the healthiest thing to process those things, forgive, repent where it's needed, and then move on.
Yeah, then walk in freedom. And the thing is, they not only do they not go away, not only do they fester, but they completely take the steering wheel. So all of the things that you then want to do well, you find yourself mysteriously, can't even name why, not doing those things well. And the fact is that those unprocessed wounds and emotions are in the driver's seat, helping. And honestly, it's they're trying to keep you safe. They're trying to keep you from getting hurt again. We come into agreements because we're trying to avoid the pain of that earlier wound. But not until we face it, until we deal with it, until we heal from it, we are living according to that agreement. And it's a strangle. It strangles future goals, future plans, future relationships, in its effort to kind of keep you safe. Okay, well, thank you all for sharing. Thank you for letting me read your comments for the recording. Let's switch gears a little bit though, and talk about some good news, which is that not every frustrating behavior pattern has to do with like deep, dark pathologies, deep, dark childhood wounds. Sometimes behavior patterns we don't like are simple design flaws. And this is where I'm going to get into teaching y'all a little bit of our tiny habits process. And we're actually going to work together. We're going to interact and work through some exercises with this. But yes, all behavior, whether you consider it good behavior or bad behavior, for these purposes, all behavior stems from three things. Behavior occurs when motivation, ability, and a prompt happen at the same moment. So there are tons of examples. Let's think of how I set my alarm for 6 a.m. so I can get 2 hours of plexus work in before my kids wake up in the summer when they're all home. And what's my alarm? It's this. And so my alarm goes off at 6, and the snooze button is bigger than the stop button. That is really interesting, isn't it? It's almost as though it's designed that way. But let's say I manage to click stop instead of snooze. Well, then this is just right here in my hand. And it sounds a whole lot more fun than getting out of bed and tackling a complicated list of IPAs. It sounds really fun to start scrolling the news feed and seeing what craziness is going on in the world today, or what so-and-so is up to. And so what has happened there is my motivation and the ability and the prompt are perfectly designed to sit there and scroll in bed instead of waking up and doing income producing activities. So prompt would be my alarm went off and my phone was sitting right by my bed. Ability, how easy is something to do? Am I capable of it? And is it easy? Well, what's easier than that? And motivation, well, I might have a little bit of fear or avoidance when it comes to the business building activities. And so the motivator is kind of working against me in that sense. So every behavior in the world is a combination of our level of motivation, our ability to do the behavior and do it as easily as possible, and is there a prompt? Motivation is actually the most fickle of these three factors. And all of us typically make the mistake of trying to tackle motivation first, because we go, oh, I'm not doing the thing I said I want to be doing to get to my goal. I must just not be motivated enough. I need to get more motivated. And we've got lots of ways we do that in this business. We might, read posts on our team page, or watch a Diamond documentary, or maybe you're a leader who's trying to motivate your people to be working. And so you're posting motivational things to them, or having them watch a motivational video or a Diamond documentary or whatever. But I just want to encourage us that actually the lowest hanging fruit for how we can start to change our behaviors more reliably is actually way more in the camp of ability and prompt. So we'll get to that in a minute. But motivation is fickle. Think of it like a wave, right? Like when the wave is cresting, when it's at its highest point, it's great, right? When you are super, super motivated, maybe you just saw your sponsor in Hawaii, okay? And your motivation is through the roof. That's a great thing. You're actually capable of doing much, much, much harder behaviors when you're riding the motivation wave. But the mistake we all make is overestimating future motivation, because the wave does not stay at its highest point forever, does it? That's not how waves work. So the wave always calms back down, settles back out. And so then the motivation is not that high. And suddenly we find ourselves, we're not being able to get pushed above that action line as easily as we were when motivation was super high. So motivation is the most fickle of those three factors. I'm going to read you a couple things from my book. Humans do not repeat hard, painful behaviors for long. So the two cardinal mistakes in trying to form new habits are overestimating future motivation and going too big too quickly. Anytime we're riding the motivation wave, that's when we typically conceive this huge overhaul that we're like, okay, here is the IPA list. It's what I did, right? I came up with the list of IPAs that I was going to do for 2 hours before the kids woke up in the summer. Motivation wave, I'm riding high. And then guess what? That did not become a habit. That 2 hours of IPA before the kids woke up, it did not become a habit. So what we want to do together tonight is start to explore how we can fiddle with ability and prompt to really master our time and really create sustainable behaviors that are going to move the needle. Yes. Okay. So these are very underutilized, low-hanging fruit. So what is ability? Well, ability is like, are you capable of doing the behavior? And how much effort do you perceive that it will require? And it doesn't have to be physical effort. It might be mental effort. And you might not even be correct. Like it might not even take that much effort. But if you perceive that it's going to take a lot of effort, that could be just demotivating enough to push you below the action line where you don't end up doing that behavior. So that's what ability is. And then prompt. No behavior happens without a prompt. None. Everything you do every day, you only do because something has prompted you to do it. If you are not prompted to do it, you won't do it. Even if you really, really want to do it, even if it's like the Goffs invited me to a Goff dinner party. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so fun. I'm going to be there at 6 p.m. sharp. But guess what? If I don't create a prompt, and if I am not prompted either by my own memory or by something on my calendar, I will just forget and I won't go to the dinner party, even though I really want to be there. So that's what a prompt is. Interestingly, in this day and age, we are so desensitized to push notifications that we ignore a lot of prompts. So and again, this is by design, right? Every company that wants your clicks, every company that wants your dollars, every website that wants your views, they are trying to figure out how to prompt you to click, to buy, to view. So these push notifications, we have gotten really good at tuning them out, haven't we? So the breakthrough is in finding anchor moments within our existing routine. That's going to be the future gold standard when it comes to prompting the behaviors that you want. It's finding anchor moments within your existing routine. So that's what we want to do. So how about everyone, if you can pull out a sheet of paper, and I want you to think of what immediately pops to mind as your next aspiration for your business, your next goal. So maybe it's that you want to grow from 12 points to 50 points and hit senior silver. Maybe you want to grow from 120 points to 250 points and hit senior gold. Maybe you are trying to get to Jewel, or my goal is I'm trying to recruit future jewels. I'm trying to raise up jewels. Okay, you have it in mind. What is the immediate thing that pops in your head for your next aspiration in your business? Okay, I want you to actually write it down in the middle of your paper and put a little circle around it, a little cloud. Okay, so one thing we need to understand is that a goal is not a behavior. So when I write down that I am trying to get to 4,500 points, or I'm trying to recruit a future diamond, that is an aspiration. It's not a behavior. We can't do a whole lot with a vague aspiration. It can be really meaningful. It can be really motivating, and motivation has its place and motivation is helpful, but it is not going to help us come up with what exact behaviors are going to move us toward that outcome. Okay, so what we're going to do on our paper is we're going to let our imagination run wild. I want you to imagine that you could wave a magic wand and make yourself do any behavior. It could be a one-time behavior or it could be an ongoing behavior. But waving a magic wand, imagine you could do any behavior that would move you toward that outcome. All right? And I want you to write it down. What's the first thing that pops to your mind? Take a minute. Okay. Does everyone have something written down? This is why I needed your cameras on, because I'm looking for nods, head shakes, thumbs ups. Does everyone have a behavior written down? Okay. So what else? What else? Now that you've written that one down, I want you to let your imagination run wild again, wave your magic wand again, and think, okay, well, what else? Anything. If I could get myself to do anything, what would it be? Okay, so take a minute and do that. Okay, now with an unlimited amount of time, I would ask you, great, what else? Probably 12 more times, because we really need to come up with a storm of behaviors and a big long list of just anything and everything that you could possibly imagine would help you toward this goal. If anyone is willing, I would love for you to share. You can unmute or you can put it in the chat. What is a specific behavior you wrote down that you think would move you toward your goal? I wrote down, reach out to dream teamers every week and post about the business like Joanna Miller, baby. She's one of my favorite people to follow for inspiration for my posts. All right, I'm watching the chat, or feel free to unmute. Who's got a couple specific behaviors written down?
Hey, I'll just say quick. I want to go live and show community like Jenna Hatula.
Ooh, I love the specifics.
I just feel like she shows that so well. They do so many local things together, and I just think that's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
I just put on here to convince people to want to share.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, you got to get people sharing. I love it. Charlotte, oh wait, yeah, Charlotte wrote her answer. She said, I want to help all of my resetters this month bring at least one friend, and I want to help 3 people go fast start silver. Okay, so Charlotte, those things are going to be in the middle. Those are kind of the outcomes you want. What specific behaviors, if you could wave a magic wand and get yourself to do anything, one time or ongoing, what specific behaviors would help you get that outcome? Amber said, send more messages. Taproot more, which is just reach further down to find people in your deeper levels who maybe have potential and it's not being brought out by their sponsor. I see a couple other answers, Amber, that are too vague. So you wrote team culture, work groups more, and schedule and organize self more. So I'm going to challenge you to take those and get very specific with them. So if you're trying to engage in groups more, I would say something like, every afternoon, as soon as I close the door for my children's nap, go into Horse Lovers Forever group and add 3 new friends. Okay, totally random example, but get really specific on the behavior that you think would help you move towards the goal. Okay, implement project broadcast is another good one. Now, we need to get specific with that because implement project broadcast, at least to me, sounds very overwhelming. So maybe one behavior in your storm needs to be watch one YouTube video that explains how to use Project Broadcast, or purchase Project Broadcast, or set up, mine would be set up one Zoom with Cassie Howard so she can teach me how to use Project Broadcast. But do you all get where I'm going with this? That we need to get much tinier and much more specific with the behaviors that are going to move the needle for us, or else they're just going to be big, hairy, scary monsters to avoid.
I have this, I had it on my wall, but it's the exact thing Chris is talking about. I called it a mind map. It's like what we did in our English or speech class with the kids at co-op. But one of my, I have 2 big circles, like in the middle. One is help 3, develop 3. And then I have specific things around that, behaviors that I'm going to be doing, right? One was follow up, another is post. And I could get more specific about that. Host personal beauty event, which I did in February. That's probably when I made this. Help them make a post, offer events for level 1s and schedule them this week. Schedule coaching calls and recruit people to the business.
Yes.
And my jewel reentry, develop 3 new jewels. I have in like the little circle out. Little circles out is, specific, develop 5 new golds, recruit 3 more business builders, host book study, a specific one. And then on the coaching calls, I have that as like a little offshoot, but like helping them map it out, help them deal with mindset junk, and help them take actions.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yes. Thank you. So this is exactly what we're trying to do here. And the more specific, the better. So just to give a generic example, if you were like, my aspiration, my goal is to eat more vegetables. Well, maybe your goal is I want a healthier body. And so then you zero in on like, I need to eat more vegetables. Well, we want to get even more specific than that, because I don't see myself swapping a donut for a celery stick. That's just not how that's going to look in my life. But if you want to eat sliced cucumbers every day when you get home from work to help tide you over until dinner, if that is one behavior that's going to help you eat more vegetables, that's how specific I'm talking about being. Okay, so yeah, Amber, exactly. Amber said, yeah, Project Broadcast does feel very overwhelming. I know I need it. I'm resisting it because it overwhelms me to implement. Exactly. We're going to talk a little bit about fiddling with the ability dial next, but totally. So I think just feel free, receive this permission to break that massive thing down into mini goals and celebrate the heck out of each little tiny step you take toward implementing Project Broadcast. Because even just setting up a meeting with someone who can share their experience and or watching a YouTube video about it is a step further than avoiding it like the plague. So Cindy said specific behaviors would be messaging 40 messages a day instead of 20, messenger events, and one business event a month. Love it. I really like how you're connecting these behaviors with the time of day or an activity that happens every day. This makes it seem more doable. Okay, yes. Again, back to push notifications. We all have developed a very desensitization to push notifications. So it can pop up on my calendar, an alarm can go off, but we are all very good at just silencing alarms that don't in the moment fit what we're doing. So maybe you're like, I know I want to start 20 conversations a day, but that reminder pops up when I am at the grocery store. What am I going to do? Am I going to honestly just stop in the middle of the aisle and send one message? No. And it's not because I can't do that. It's not because I can't do that behavior. It's not because I don't want to do that behavior, but it's popping up at a time where I am not my environment is not conducive to sticking with that behavior. So like you said, we've got to connect the behaviors with an activity that is an existing part of our routine. And this is not necessarily an intuitive process, but it is so worth it. It's so worth it. So I'll give you a really funny example. Again, I'm taking a lot of this from Tiny Habits, which is by BJ Fogg. He wanted a healthier, stronger body, and he decided that he was going to do 2 push-ups every time he went pee. Every time, and he got real specific, like when I flush the toilet, I will do 2 push-ups. And it seems so tiny and so insignificant, but the truth is that ends up being 10 push-ups a day, a lot of the time. And that ends up being about 300 push-ups a month. And 300 push-ups a month is a lot more than 0. So, what is the small habits book you are talking about, Carissa? It's called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. I love it. Can't recommend it enough right now. So, but anyway, that's his whole thing is that the gold standard of prompts is not send yourself a notification, put it on your to-do list, put it on your calendar. It is link it with an anchor moment in your day that is a part of your existing routine. He's also really, really big on celebrating the heck out of it when you have a tiny success. The reason for that is your brain will take that positive emotion and immediately encode that behavior into a habit. It's actually outdated thinking to think that repetition is what forms a habit. You used to hear people say 30 days to make a habit. That's not true. Because if the Goffs were to give Madeline a smartphone tomorrow, would it take her 30 days to get into the habit of grabbing that thing and scrolling and, texting her friends or whatever? No, it does not take repetition, 30 days, whatever, to form a habit. Habits form from emotional responses to things. And so we can hack into that on purpose by when I do a tiny behavior that moves the needle toward my goal, I feel good about it. I celebrate it. Whatever is personal to me, maybe I give a high five, or I say the word yes, or I throw a high kick, or I do a happy dance, or I think about my favorite song, or whatever it is. I take the moment to celebrate that success and feel good about it. And that is how you purposely hack into the reward center of your brain, and your brain will go, oh, we need to make this behavior a habit because we like how we feel when we feel good about doing this behavior. So we'll get to that. Okay, next thing, I know we want to wrap up in a few minutes. So continue this exercise with your goal. Continue to give yourself, and again, do not be practical at this step. Imagine that you're waving a magic wand and that you can get yourself to do any behavior 1 time or 100 times. If it would move you toward, if it would be impactful and meaningful to move you toward that goal, write it down. Get really specific with it, and fill the page, okay? And then I want you to ask yourself, well, here's what I want you to do. Ask yourself how much impact, go through them one by one and ask yourself how much impact this behavior make toward my goal. You'll put stars next to the ones that are going to make a high impact. If you look at it and you're like, it's not going to really make that high of an impact toward my goal, then don't put a star by it. But if it would make the high impact, put a star by it. Then you're going to go through the whole list again, one by one, and circle the ones. Well, ask yourself this question and ask it in exactly this way. Can I get myself to do this behavior every day? Not, am I capable of it, but can I get myself to do it? It's important that you ask it that way, because that question assesses not just the actual effort it takes, but like the mental perceived effort that you believe it will take. So ask yourself, can I get myself to do this every day? And you'll end up with narrowing your list down. You've got a lot of great ideas there, but as you go through that exercise, you'll be able to narrow your list down to just a few that are both starred and circled. And those are your golden behaviors. That's where you're going to start, and you're going to start tiny. Think about a baby taking their first step and how everybody in the room just claps and cheers. It's not because that baby has done something just earth-shatteringly amazing. It's one step. But as adults, we recognize that that is the first step of a lifetime of walking and running, and that's a huge deal. We do not look down our nose at the first baby step, and I don't want you to look down your nose at baby steps either, okay? Because if you do that, you do nothing. So when you find your golden behaviors, the ones that are starred and circles, you're going to start there, and you're going to start tiny. You're going to ask yourself, do I have enough time to do this behavior? Where might it naturally fit in my day? When am I already in the brain space to do things kind of like that? Or when am I already in the environment or setting to do things kind of like that? Ask yourself, am I like physically capable of doing the behavior? Does it require a lot of mental energy? And where does it fit into my current routine? And then you're going to ask yourself, how can I make this behavior easier to do? Again, it's not going to be about how do I just ride the motivation wave every single day. We're not going to be at the top of the motivation wave every single day. But what we can do is we can make the behavior easier, and we can get the right prompt in place. We can get the right anchor moment in our day to where that behavior just feels a lot less scary and a lot less challenging. And then, like I already said, when you successfully do the behavior, it is crucial to instantly celebrate in a way that makes you feel successful and good, because that is going to make it into a habit faster than any repetition, any fairy dust possibly could. Okay. I'm catching up on the comments. Did I miss anything, Goffs, that needs to be added here before we close out? Okay, no. So great. So this is exciting. I can't wait. So I would love to hear feedback, maybe in y'all's accountability chat or ours accountability chat, when you land on the goal, and then when you land on what behaviors, and then when you kind of narrow down to the more practical, like, okay, these are the 1, 2, or 3 that I'm going to start creating habits around. And this is where I'm going to anchor them in my day. And this is how I'm going to make them easier, make them tinier. And I'm going to celebrate the mess out of taking those baby steps, just like we do when a baby takes their first step. We're going to do that too. Okay.
I have a quick thought, really fast. Something that I notice sometimes that people will do is not do the golden behaviors, but they will do, kind of lower hanging fruit behaviors that are easy to do, or make them feel like they are working their business, but it doesn't produce them results.
Yeah.
It's not uncomfortable.
Yes. That's why you have to ask yourself, how much impact will this make toward my goal?
Mhm.
And can I get myself to do this behavior every day? And the nice thing is you're only starting tiny, because as we build evidence of our successes and we celebrate those things, our confidence grows, our ability grows because we're
Mhm.
practicing, and our motivation grows. So you start to be able to add other things, other habits to the list, but you're going to start with these golden behaviors. But absolutely, you have to ask yourself, how much impact will it make towards my goal? We're not just looking for the easy things. We're looking for most impact with the least perceived mental and physical effort. That's going to be the golden thing. And also just remembering that no behavior happens without a prompt. It is the lowest hanging fruit. So before you attack yourself for being such an unmotivated loser who never follows through and has no character, maybe just ask yourself, do I have a prompt? Do I have a reliable, helpful prompt that actually fits well into my daily routine? Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the first thing to ask yourself. All right. Well, just a little bit of housekeeping before we close out. We are finishing up August, and then we're headed into September. And Megan and I have been discussing some fun ways to mix up our accountability. And we won't reveal that quite yet, but we have ideas. And then our next group coaching, we're going to swing back to doing a new builders coaching. You can go ahead and put September 13th on your calendar if you want. That's before we leave for Hawaii. We're going to do a group coaching session with new builders. And we like to invite anybody who has done some initial business building activity, because then they run up against some of those first few objections or those first few obstacles. And it's a great setting for them to learn from people who have walked the road, who can help them through it, and just learn in a group so that everybody is gathering at the same time and from that information. So I would challenge you already to be to have that date in your mind and to get people from your team there. Let your diamonds do some of this work for you. Right? So plan on that, and then we'll be in touch about some of the other fun accountability we have in mind for the month of September. Oh, thank you. Yes. Don't forget. Yes, thank you. Thursday night, we're going to do an opportunity Zoom that's specifically geared around sharing the reset and how the reset has really exploded this opportunity. I have people that have joined my team this summer just to get the reset into their friends' hands. It's a huge opportunity. So Thursday night, we're going to do an opportunity event presenting the reset sharing aspect of the business. And then all day long tomorrow, we're going to lead power hours just to blitz out invites and posts and stuff like that. So you can get on as early as 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. tomorrow to do a power hour and invite, or in the afternoon, I'm going to lead one at 1 p.m. Central and Megan's going to lead one at 2 p.m. Central. And then in the evening, Ashley Johnson is going to lead one at 8 p.m. Central. So pretty much any time of day, you should be able to sit down and just put in 1 hour to get a ton of invites sent out for that. Thank you for reminding me of that. All right. Good night, everybody, and congratulations again on earning the call.